everyone. Super happy to be here today. Share some information with you as you embark on Common Core implementation. Hopefully this information will be helpful to you. So I kind of wanted to touch upon two things today, and they really drive at the same thing, which is really how do you get the right people around the table as you go about implementing Common Core. So if you're looking at engaging stakeholders, messaging is absolutely key. So I'll share some information that we have about that. When you're looking at really doing this on the ground, you need extremely strong technical assistance partners to help you, and I know we've heard a little bit of reference to those folks here today, but we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So to give you a little bit of context, the Gates Foundation is actually supporting a number of funders here in California to support the California Department of Education in communicating around the Common Core. And as part of this, we've done quite a bit of survey research around exactly what messages are most effective across the country. So some of these are rather straightforward, but I think the actual takeaway from this is that the messages that you have been giving out to your stakeholders are the correct ones, and to really just stick with it. So the first one, the Common Core prepares students for success in college and career. This focus on post-secondary readiness is absolutely key, and it resonates with just about every stakeholder that you would want to engage with. Teachers strongly support the standards. I've heard all around this state, obviously we all know how important teachers are in this effort. It's important to put that in front of parents and in front of other stakeholders as well so that they remember that. High expectations for all students ensure equal access to a quality education and a chance for all students to succeed. This really drives at the equity and the access piece that a lot of stakeholders are very concerned about. So really making sure that you add this particular layer to your messaging would be great. The other ones really fold into the three statements that I just mentioned. I would point down at the bottom a strategy that you might consider using if it's applicable to you. Are there examples of districts or schools in your district, or even just buildings, where the Common Core is already working, or where people are a little bit ahead of others? If that is true, and you do have something of a best practice or model, or even just a good news type of story, it's really great in terms of boosting morale, just to give people an example of a place that they know and a name that they know that is doing really good work here. So that's something to think about. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about teachers here. Obviously, they are the most important voices in this conversation, not just as recipients of the messaging and people that you need to get on your team, but also as messengers for you to the rest of the community. So their opinion obviously matters to parents, to business leaders, to other district administrators, and to students as well. Just to give you an example, we have survey data that shows that parents are actually very concerned about the level of support that teachers will actually have in implementing Common Core. And an idea is to essentially have your teachers go out, number one, give them really good PD so that this is actually true, but also ask them to go out and share with parents about the kind of training that they're actually receiving. And that is really the best way to get a good message across. So I know that was fast, but we have quite a bit of research around this, and I'm happy to share some more of that offline as well. So moving forward to technical assistance, a lot of systems are relying very heavily on strong technical assistance partners to help them do this work. So at the foundation, we've developed a taxonomy of sorts, which I think in English is a framework for really how to think about what kind of assistance you might need from partners and who you can actually go to get help with this. So first I want to talk about how we're really thinking about technical assistance, what it is and also what it really isn't. So there are some definers at the bottom that I have here. First of all, technical assistance must be customized to the local context and not completely off the shelf. So inherently, it's not a product. As you can see, it's kind of a side service there. Technical assistance providers can't just take something off the shelf, give it to you, and put a gold seal on it and say, that is going to be your Common Core solution. It's at its core a service, and it really needs to have customization and support attached to it. Secondly, it has to actively build the ability of the local team to drive the work on its own and not just provide information or events. So anything that's just advocacy or knowledge sharing or a meeting or a convening, those things don't qualify as technical assistance. The third one I think is the most important, that technical assistance must have the expectation of being temporary and not a substitute for the district's own responsibility. So obviously as a district, you do what you do best, and all of your core capacity you already have. And these partners are really just here to help give you a kickstart, add some extra power where it's needed, or some extra expertise where it's needed as well. So we've come up with 6 different types of technical assistance that we think that most partners will actually fall under. So I'll just give you some examples here. For design and implementation planning, this is really around getting some strategy coherence. So applied to the Common Core, this might just really be talking about what does a comprehensive transition to the new standards actually look like. This is really your vision level statement and kind of the outline of who you need to help you get there. On the policy development side, this is really thinking about, what are the systems of supports and what are the policies that you really need to help you as you move on with this transition. An example of this with Common Core is really developing policy around how the Common Core assessments will impact school and teacher level accountability results. Tool and resource development is a very big one. This is really around any of the systems of supports that you will need instructionally. So an example of this is obviously developing curriculum modules that are aligned with the Common Core or performance tasks or the like. Training and coaching really go hand in hand with each other. Training is really about group knowledge transfer and getting information to large groups of people. So this might really be training large groups of teachers around the required instructional shifts for Common Core. On the coaching level, we're moving to a little bit more personalization, which a lot of districts like to keep in-house actually. So this might be coaching principals and other teacher leaders on actually recognizing what Common Core instruction looks like in the classroom, what it looks like on a student, and how to support teachers in making that move. Implementation project management is probably the most consultancy type of support here. It's really operational around keeping everybody on timelines, on checkpoints, and making course adjustments as necessary. So just to give you a little look at how this framework might actually work in practice, we did a case study with Colorado around what kinds of partners they're actually engaging to help with this work. So I'd like to point out a couple things. You'll see that there's really nothing under policy development. This was something that the state actually thought that they would be able to handle by themselves. And it really feeds into a larger conversation that needs to be had about how necessary are technical assistance partners here. I know we've developed a framework here, but as I've heard around the room, a lot of the times, there is a need for a conversation to be had around how necessary certain partners are and how necessary they're not. In terms of training and coaching, you'll see that there are several providers there that are actually listed under 2 categories. So you will see some partners who are equally effective across multiple types of technical assistance, but you're very unlikely to see a provider who's equally fluent across a lot of different types. We also did a case study and some surveys of about 90 state and district leaders around the country who we asked about essentially who they're using for technical assistance. And we did find that there are 3 categories where a lot of people are looking for help. And those are design and implementation planning, which is a lot of the strategy work, tools and resources, and also training. And I'll note that I think about 80% of the people that we interviewed actually said that they were using an outside provider for training, while only 40% of them were actually using people for coaching. So you'll see some of the things that are a little bit closer to the classroom being done in-house, and some of the things that are a little bit farther and system level being done by partners. So the last piece is really about how do we apply this taxonomy to helping you select and evaluate partners. You'll see here we have examples of some things that you might consider along the expertise, resources, and sustainability axes. On the expertise side, obviously the most important thing here is finding someone who has a highly specialized domain focus. If there's not something that they can offer to you as an outside provider, obviously that's not a worthwhile engagement. In terms of a best practice solution, I think we know for Common Core that there aren't that many out there. We're all in this together, but really referring to other systems around the state, the county, the nation, people who might be a little bit ahead of you. That is a great place to get some references. On the resource side of things, you can read there about some of the leadership requirements, but you also really want to think about a provider who might be able to actually flex its resources when needed. We're obviously on a very tight timeline with this, even though it is a long-term strategy, and you want to have someone who's able to be there for the long run. That feeds into sustainability. Essentially, is this provider going to be there in the end 2 years from now when you're still implementing Common Core and need their help? So I wanted to close with just a little bit of information about what the landscape actually looks like right now. So from our survey data, we're seeing that about 40% of all technical assistance providers who are being listed are actually national providers. So those are the names that you probably recognize most of the time. That being said, it's an absolutely fragmented landscape with not a lot of the same names coming up, which could indicate to you two things. One, that there are a lot of people offering products out there, and number two, that not everyone is sure where the expertise is. So that's kind of the reality of the situation. But I hope that this overview will at least encourage you to go back and do a readiness assessment on what types of work that you might need done, and really to start thinking about who might be your partners here. When you're looking for one, you're really looking for what you would look for in a great colleague at a county office of education or at your district. So hopefully this information is helpful. Thank you.